Okay, Mr. Speaker, they're saying it's an error on YouTube, so let me go ahead and try it again. Hold on 1 minute. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm getting an error. I'm going to go ahead and call Jamie really quick and see what's going on. Even though it says you're live up here, you're actually not. So if you'll give me a minute, I'll be right with you.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker and Rihanna, it does show that it's live on my side.
Jamie really quick and see what's going on, even though it says you're.
Rihanna, so I think it is live because I can hear
I'm
people.
showing it on my side, Mr. Speaker.
I think then you're good to go.
Thank you very much. House will please come to order. Welcome, members. Welcome the state of Wyoming for joining us today on the 5th day of our session. Today is Monday, February 1st. Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Convening roll call for the 5th day, Monday, February 1st, 2021. Andrew.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Banks.
Here.
Bear.
Here.
Blackburn.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Burkhart.
Here.
Burt.
Present.
Clausen.
Here.
Clifford.
Here.
Connolly.
Here.
Crago.
Present.
Duncan.
Here.
Eklund.
Here.
Air.
Here.
Flittner.
Here.
Fortner.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Greer.
Here.
Hallinan.
Here.
Haroldson.
Here.
Harshman.
Here.
Heiner.
Here.
Henderson.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Jennings.
Here.
Kenner.
Here.
Knapp.
Here.
Larson Lloyd.
Here.
Larson Dan. Larson Dan.
Here.
McGuire.
Present.
Martinez.
Here.
Nyman. Nyman.
Here.
Newsom.
Here.
Nicholas.
Here.
Oakley.
Here.
Obermuller.
Here.
O'Hearn.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Ottman.
Here.
Paxton.
Here.
Provenza.
Here.
Roscoe.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Sherwood.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Summers.
Here.
Dick.
Here.
Stivar.
Present.
Sweeney.
Here.
Walters.
Here.
Washit.
Here.
Western.
Here.
Worf.
Here.
Williams.
Present.
Wilson.
Here.
Winter.
Here.
Yin.
Here.
Swanitzer.
Here.
Mr. Speaker,
Present.
we have 60 present.
Well, welcome all 60 to the House of Representatives. Great to have you all here today. We're now at that order of business of a prayer by our chaplain, and today Representative Chairman Flittner. Please join us.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, everyone. Let us begin with a reflection from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 5, the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the land. Blessed are they who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Dear Lord, we thank you for your ever presence in our lives and for guiding all our days. we ask for the gifts of the Spirit, wisdom, knowledge, understanding, counsel, fortitude. May our decisions be guided by these gifts, and in all that we say and do, may we be a reflection of you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Representative Flintner. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, members. All right, members, congratulations on 3 full days last week. I think we have 3, 4, 5 full days this week. Chief Clerk, would you, actually, I will try to do every day. I'm going to give a shout out. Certainly, I guess it's my privilege, but I hope I can do it on behalf of the House. And today, it's to our mineral industries. Whether you're mining coal, uranium, trona, or many of the other valuable commodities, or drilling or roustabouting on an oil or gas rig, we just appreciate what you're doing. The service companies, all those folks have done so much for our state, continue to do so much for our state. We appreciate you. We know you're out there in the wind and the cold and the heat and all that, and we're thinking of you, and hopefully we're doing good work on your behalf. So shout out to our energy industry. All right, Chief Clerk, Journal Committee report, please.
Your Journal Committee reports that the Journal of January 29th, 2021 has been read and recommend that it be approved. Signed, Representatives Haroldson and Provenza.
Thank you very much. I want to give an appreciation to Majority Whip Olson, who's been sending out the calendar for everybody. As you know, these are all available online, but he's just giving us every day, trying to give us a heads up of what's coming, just to drop it right in our mailbox. But everything is online under the legislative website, under the floor calendar. So you can go there and get ahead a day or two, and hopefully, generally the Chief Clerk has it up certainly the evening before, if not over the weekend, on a weekend. So appreciate that from the Majority Whip, that assistance for all of us. Next order of business is Senate files on first reading. The first Senate file. So members, so we've gotten another set of Senate files. We're going to send these out to committee, and then we're going to send some more committee bills out, House bills. So that's what we're going to read in, about 20 some bills. So your committees will continue to meet this week. I know some of you met this morning, some of you met at noon. That will continue as bills are available for your committee. So we're at that order of business. Senate files on first reading. The first Senate file for our consideration is Senate File 26.
Senate File 26, sponsored by Agriculture, State and Public Land and Water Resources.
First reading of the bill.
Animal Abuse Statutes Reorganization and Update.
Senate File 26 is referred to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. Next Senate file for our consideration is Senate File 63.
Senate File 63, sponsored by Capital Financing and Investments.
First reading of the bill.
PWMTF Reserve Account Distribution Timing.
Senate File 63 is referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Next Senate file for our consideration is Senate File 64.
Senate File 64, sponsored by Appropriations.
First reading of the bill.
Local Government Distribution Revisions 2.
Senate File 64 is referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Next file for our consideration is Senate File 65.
45.
45, my apologies, 45.
Senate File 45, sponsored by Revenue.
First reading of the bill.
Monthly ad valorem tax revisions.
Senate File 45 is referred to Committee Number 3, Revenue. Next bill for our consideration is Senate File 60.
Senate File 60, sponsored by Revenue.
First reading of the bill.
Monthly ad valorem tax revisions 2.
Senate File 60 is referred to Committee Number 3, Revenue. Next bill for consideration is Senate File 37.
Senate File 37, sponsored by Select Water.
First reading of the bill.
Omnibus Water Bill Planning.
Senate File 37 is referred to Committee Number 5, Agriculture. Next bill for consideration is Senate File 61.
Senate File 61, sponsored by Minerals Business and Economic Development.
Senate File 6, first reading of the bill.
Amortization of sales and use tax.
Senate File 61 is referred to Committee Number 9, Minerals. Next bill for our consideration is Senate File 53.
Senate File 53, sponsored by Labor, Health, and Social Services.
First reading of the bill.
Private Ground Ambulance Service Provider Assessment Act.
Senate File 53 is referred to Committee Number 10, Labor. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 33.
House Bill 33, sponsored by Judiciary.
First reading of the bill.
Interference with public contracting.
House Bill 33 is referred to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 87.
House Bill 87, sponsored by Appropriations.
First reading of the bill.
Provider Recruitment Grant Program repeal.
House Bill 87 is referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 63.
House Bill 63, sponsored by Education.
First reading of the bill.
Early Childhood Education.
House Bill 63 is referred to Committee Number 4, Education. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 52.
House Bill 52, sponsored by Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources.
First reading of the bill.
Wyoming School Protein Enhancement Project.
House Bill 52 is referred to Committee Number 5, Agriculture. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 54.
House Bill 54, sponsored by Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources.
First reading of the bill.
Wyoming Meat Packing Initiative.
House Bill 54 is referred to Committee Number 5, Agriculture. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 14.
House Bill 14, sponsored by Corporations, Elections and Political Subdivision.
First reading of the bill.
Rights of Way Along Public Ways Amendments.
House Bill 14 is referred to Committee Number 7, Corporations. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 16.
House Bill 16, sponsored by Corporations, Elections and Political Subdivision.
First reading of the bill.
Improvement and Service Districts Limitations.
House Bill 16 is referred to Committee Number 7, Corporations. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 20.
House Bill 20, sponsored by Transportation, Highways and Military Affairs.
First reading of the bill.
Driver's License Requirements Visual Acuity.
House Bill 20 is referred to Committee Number 8, Transportation. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 21.
House Bill 21, sponsored by Transportation, Highways and Military Affairs.
First reading of the bill.
Wyoming National Guard Preference for Education.
House Bill 21 is referred to Committee Number 8, Transportation. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 22.
House Bill 22, sponsored by Transportation, Highways and Military Affairs.
First reading of the bill.
Wyoming Military Code.
House Bill 22 is referred to Committee Number 8, Transportation. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 23.
House Bill 23, sponsored by Transportation, Highways and Military Affairs.
First reading of the bill.
Highway Safety, Child Restraints.
House Bill 23 is referred to Committee Number 8, Transportation. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 24.
House Bill 24, Transportation Computers. House Bill 24, sponsored by Transportation, Highways and Military Affairs.
First reading of the bill.
Transportation Computer System Funding.
House Bill 24 is referred to Committee Number 8, Transportation. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 7.
House Bill 7, sponsored by Minerals Business and Economic Development.
First reading of the bill.
Air Ambulance Membership Organizations Regulation.
House Bill 7 is referred to Committee Number 9, Minerals. We have anything else, Chief Clerk, on the introduction and referrals?
That is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, members. So that's hopefully with a few bills that are already in the hopper for some of your committees. That hopefully gives you some more work for the week. with those Senate files. And I've mentioned to the chairman, they can certainly prioritize Senate files. If we can get them back here by either Tuesday or Wednesday, they'll be on committee of the whole, and we may be able to complete them before the end of this week. We may not, if we have committee, conference committees on them, we'd have to take them up probably when we come back. So we're going to keep the pipeline primed, keep things moving through. So thank you for that. And like I said, committees will continue to do work this week as the chairman see fit.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, ma'am. Chief Clerk.
I would have you move your microphone up just a tad. We're starting to get some static.
Yes, ma'am. Is that any better or worse?
That's perfect. Thank you, sir.
My apologies. And I apologize to the body. I moved over on this desk and I wasn't in front of the cameras. I was doing quite a few of those, and I apologize for that, and to the public. All right. So reading introduction. I'm just following my script, folks. That's what I'm supposed to do. The chief clerk told me. So I think we're on that order of, we're ready for third reading. Chief clerk, is that what you're ready for?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're on that order of third reading consent list. Master Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move the consent list consisting of the following bills: House Bill 4, House Bill 25, and House Bill 53.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Any members wish to have any of those bills removed? Any member wish to have any of those bills removed? Chief Clerk, affirm that there are no amendments to those three bills?
No amendments.
All right, thank you very much. Will the reading clerk please read the bills on the consent list?
House Bill 4, sponsored by Labor, Health, and Social Services, Mental Health Professions Practice Act amendments, an act relating to the Mental Health Professions Practice Act, be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. House Bill 25, sponsored by Select Tribal Relations, Tribal Vehicle Registration, Exemption Implementation, an act relating to motor vehicles, be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming. House Bill 53, sponsored by Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources, Invasive Plant Species, an act relating to agriculture, be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
Having been read three separate times, the question is, shall House Bill 4, House Bill 25, and 53 pass the House? Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Roll call on the consent list. Andrew?
Aye.
Baker?
Aye.
Banks?
Aye.
Bear?
Aye.
Blackburn?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Burkhart?
Aye.
Burt?
Aye.
Clausen?
Aye.
Clifford?
Aye.
Connolly?
Aye.
Crago?
Aye.
Duncan?
Aye.
Eklund?
Aye.
Hare?
Aye.
Flitner?
Aye.
Fortner?
Aye.
Gray?
Aye.
Greer?
Aye.
Hallinan?
Aye.
Haroldson?
Aye.
Harshman?
Aye.
Heiner?
Aye.
Henderson?
Aye.
Hunt?
Aye.
Jennings?
Aye.
Kenner?
Aye.
Knapp?
Aye.
Larson Lloyd?
Aye.
Larson Dan?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Martinez?
Aye.
Nyman?
Aye.
Newsom?
Aye.
Nicholas? Nicholas?
Aye.
Oakley?
Aye.
Obermuller?
Aye.
O'Hearn?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Ottman?
Aye.
Paxton?
Aye.
Provenza?
Aye.
Roscoe?
Aye.
Schwartz?
Aye.
Sherwood?
Aye.
Simpson?
Aye.
Summers?
Aye.
Stiff?
Aye.
Stivart?
Aye.
Sweeney?
Aye.
Walters?
Aye.
Washit?
Aye.
Western?
Aye.
Ward?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Winter?
Aye.
Yin,
Aye.
Zawanitzer,
Aye.
Mr. Speaker,
Aye.
60 aye. As for House Bill 4, are there any changes? Are there any changes? Closing vote. The vote is closed. 60 aye. As for House Bill 25, are there any changes? Washit, aye to no. Gray, aye to no. Larson Dan, aye to no. Winter, aye to no. Gray, would you lower your hand, please, or did you want to change again? You're good, Gray?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you. I'm a no.
Okay, thank you, sir. Bear, aye to no. Haroldson, aye to no. Burt, aye to no. Jennings, aye to no. Baker, aye to no. Williams, aye to no. Fortner, aye to no. Ottman, aye to no. Wharf, aye to no. Stivar, aye to no. Knapp, aye to no. Andrew, aye to no.
Mr. Speaker. I seem not be able to get my chat thing to come up, but I am a aye to no.
Name Nyman,
Nyman.
aye to no. Further changes. Further changes. Closing vote. The vote is closed. 44 aye, 16 no. And as for House Bill 53, are there any changes? Wharf, aye to no. Gray, aye to no. Further changes? Closing vote. The vote is closed. 58 aye, 2 no. Mr. Speaker, you are muted, sir.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. We are at that order of business of bills on third and reading and final passage. The first
Mr.
bill.
Speaker,
Yes, ma'am.
since you were muted, I would have you go ahead and pass those
Oh,
bills
yeah.
again, please.
Sorry. My apologies.
Mhm.
Having received the affirmative vote of the majority of members elected to the House, House Bill 4, House Bill 25, and House Bill 53 have passed the House. My apologies to the body and to the Chief Clerk. Just read the script. Just read the script. We are at that order of business on bills on third and reading and final passage. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 15.
House Bill 15, sponsored by Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, Department of Transportation, Communication Facilities. An act relating to the Department of Transportation, be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
And Chief Clerk, I'm just affirming you have not received an amendment.
No amendment, sir.
All right, thank you. House Bill 15, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Andrew.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Banks.
Aye.
Bear. Bear.
Aye.
Repeat, please.
Aye. Bear is aye.
Thank you. Blackburn.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Burkhart.
Aye.
Burt. Burt.
Aye.
Clausen.
Aye.
Clifford,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Crago,
Aye.
Duncan,
Aye.
Eklund,
Aye.
Air,
Aye.
Flitner,
Aye.
Fortner,
Aye.
Gray,
Aye.
Greer,
Aye.
Hallinan,
Aye.
Haroldson,
Aye.
Harshman,
Aye.
Heiner,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hunt,
Aye.
Jennings,
Aye.
Kenner,
Aye.
Kenner, repeat please. Thank you. Knapp,
Aye.
Larson Lloyd,
Aye.
Larson Dan,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
Nyman,
Aye.
Newsom,
Aye.
Nicholas,
Aye.
Oakley,
Aye.
Obermuller,
Aye.
O'Hearn,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Ottman,
Aye.
Paxton,
Aye.
Provenza,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Sherwood,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Summers,
Aye.
Stiff,
Aye.
Stivar,
Aye.
Sweeney,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Washit,
Aye.
Western,
Aye.
Wharf,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Wilson,
Aye.
Winter,
Aye.
Yin,
Aye.
Zawanitzer.
Aye.
Mr. Speaker,
Aye.
closing vote. Are there any changes? Closing vote. The vote is closed. 60 aye.
House Bill 15, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, House Bill 15 has passed the House. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 18, and there are 2 amendments.
Mr. Speaker, I just got a third.
Thank
Oh.
you.
Well, not sure. Just a second. No, there's just 2. Thank you, sir.
So members, what you'll see is this is the first time we've had an amendment that deletes the enacting clause. So this is an amendment, and this is third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 18. And this is an amendment that allows the body to speak on the entirety of the bill. As you will note, the Wyoming Constitution requires that the enactment clause be in any legislation that's passed. So this is a mechanism to allow a full debate on the bill and the merits of the bill on third reading. As you know, traditionally we only debate amendments, but this is a way to amend the bill. And what the order of business is the bringer of the motion will move that motion, and then at the end of it, they will withdraw the motion, and then we go to a vote. So it doesn't kill, Madam Chief Clerk.
When you're finished, we need to read the bill before we start. Thank you.
Thank you. I thank you for reminding me. But it's all, so this type of amendment, delete the enacting clause for the new members, is always the last amendment we take up. So there'll be, even though the other one is a higher number, i.e. 3002, we're going to take it up first. And if there was a third one, that's why I asked the chief clerk if there were more amendments that came in. We take all of those up first, and then the delete the enacting clause is always the last amendment on third reading. So we're at that order of business of bills on consideration. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 18.
House Bill 18, sponsored by Transportation, Highways, and Military Affairs. Military Training Memorials, an act relating to honoring military members, be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. So now, members, we have 2 amendments, and the first amendment we'll be taking up is third reading amendment number 2. Chairman Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 18 and ask for your favorable consideration. Members, appreciate the debate on this issue, and I think part of as I read this bill and I looked over it, so I called the director of our YDOT, and for you new members, you think of that committee, the Committee of Transportation Military Affairs, and they work with the YDOT director. Well, the YDOT director in his previous life, he spent a lifetime in the National Guard. He was, the Adjutant General of the Wyoming Army National Guard, the military department, for like 8 years. I think he was appointed in 2011. And so we've had that familiarity with him, in his military role, and then now as a director of YDOT. And so he'd be the perfect guy to go to for this kind of issue. But as I kind of worked through and listened to all the good debate on this deal last week, I thought really this type of, so I called the director on Saturday and we talked, and he said, if I had to do this or was told to do this, the first person I'd call would be, and I won't say his name, but the director of Parks and Cultural Resources. He said, I wouldn't design it. This is what they do. They have all the experts and the historians, and they do this all around the state. And so then I got a hold of the director of the state parks and cultural resources, and he confirmed to me they would gladly take this on. He says they have the monuments and markers program in their agency, and they also have the ability to accept private donations, which they do on many projects. And that's the way this bill sits now. The other part of this bill was really to narrow the sites, because really what we're talking about are 3 sites. We're talking about Shirley Basin area. We're talking about out by Edgerton. I was a kid growing up Midwest, we'd hike to that site. Unfortunately, there's nobody around that really knows much about this anymore. There used to be 3 of us from Midwest served on the floor. There's 2 of us now, but one served from Green River, and he talked about that. He was a kid that was born in Midwest in the 40s and talked about, how that plane avoided the largest oil field in the world at that time and crash landed in Edgerton. And so I think all this history deserves to be remembered, right? And and I think we all are in agreement on that, but what's the best way to do it? And so so when I talked to those 2 directors, really the idea then too was to narrow these sites, because the bill as it currently is pretty open-ended. And really, again, we're talking about these 3 sites: Shirley Basin, Edgerton, and really Bomber Peak and the Bighorns. And so I reached out to the representatives, House District 47, the largest area in the state. It represents the Shirley Basin area. Representative 58, House District 58 in Casper represents Edgerton, and then 40 in Buffalo, just to kind of, so I wanted to just bring it in. And as you read that amendment, then how it would really read is the State Department of Parks and Cultural Resources, in cooperation with the Wyoming Military Department and appropriate non-governmental organizations, shall design, create memorials to honor United States military personnel who died in military training accidents in Wyoming during the United States involvement in overseas wars and conflicts. The department shall consult with YDOT to identify the placement of the memorials in appropriate locations accessible to the public along public roads, highways, or parking areas in order to honor the known crash sites located at Shirley Basin, Edgerton, and Bomber Peak. And then the second page, the Adjutant General of the Wyoming National Guard shall approve the design of each memorial. That's it. And so I wanted to kind of simplify this, put it in the wheelhouse of the agencies that do that, and then we can move forward and with these 3 sites that we know about and we want to honor. So with that, I'd stand for any questions, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Chairman Harshman. So members, let's recall that we're on 3rd reading, and our debate rules are everybody gets 2 chances, nobody gets their 2nd chance until we've exhausted first opportunities. So with that, first member, Representative Schwartz.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Please, what's your point?
I think we need to move the amendment. I don't believe the chairman actually moved the amendment as we moved into this.
I think he did, but go ahead and belt and suspenders.
He did.
Go ahead and belt and suspenders, Chairman Chairman Harrison, just go ahead and belt and suspender in case there's a
Got to push the
discrepancy.
mute button. You know, I used to say, read the script, dummy. I'd say that to myself. Now I'm saying, push the mute button, dummy. Anyway, for the second time, Mr. Chairman, I will move the amendment. Okay, third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 18, and appreciate your favorable consideration, members. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Schwartz for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just have a question for the bringer. The way I understand it, there is no change to section 2 and the appropriation that will still come from the Department of Transportation. Is that correct?
Okay, we'll get back to the chairman when he has when we've any other questions from the body. Other questions from the body. Representative Craigo, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just had a quick question for the bringer as well. And when he was reading the amendment into the bill language on line 10, the word may is in the actual bill language, and he used the word shall. And so I was just curious about that distinction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Representative Gray, and then Representative Nyman, and then Representative Jennings, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had a very similar question, which is I'm not seeing a shall in the amendment, and it was read with a shall. And so I just want to see, is it going to be may or shall? Thank you.
Representative Nyman for your first time. Representative Nyman, we didn't actually hear you on the audio on here. I heard you on the floor, but would you, just so that all the members can hear you, please key your mic?
Yes, sir. Reserve for a second, sir.
Thank you very much. Representative Jennings for your first time.
First for a second, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any other members for their first time? Representative Stiver?
First for a second.
Thank you very much. Representative Olson for your first time.
First for a second, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any other members wish to speak for their first time? First time. Representative Harrelson, I'll come to you. Representative O'Hearn is next. Harrelson, Representative Harrelson, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A first for a second.
Representative O'Hearn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First for a second.
Anybody else need a first for a second? Anybody else for their first time? Representative Burt.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker, first for a second.
Any other members wish to speak for the first time? Representative Washut, for your first time.
And I'm actually going to speak, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Please proceed.
I'd just like to thank the good representative who grew up in Midwest for bringing this and putting the three sideboards on it. I think that constrains the allocation and appropriation of funding and greatly improves the bill. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other member for their first time? Member for their first time. Representative Blackburn.
First for a second, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. So we're still on first times. Any other member for their first time? Any other member for their first time? Seeing none, no waving of hands and no digital hand out. Representative Flitner, my apologies. Representative Flitner for your first time.
No problem, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Just on and for the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Flitner. Any other members for their first time? First time? First time? Seeing none, any member for their second time before the sponsor? Second time before the sponsor. Representative Jennings for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the bringer, is there anything that you can see that actually prohibits this from happening, what you've changed here currently?
Thank you, Representative Jennings. Any other member for their second time? We are on second time. Third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 18. Representative Burt.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question for the bringer. He had made mention of contacting the state park department, and they had mentioned, I guess he said they mentioned that he had that or agency does have enough money in order to go through this. And my question would be, with the previous amendment during the second reading, we had agreed to remove any state funds in that. So is the state parks, are they set up with with any kind of earmarked funds that are all private in order to fund this? Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Representative Burt. Any other member for their second time? Any member for their second time before the spot? Representative O'Hearn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is again also, most of the discussion was concerning the funding of it. So if section 2 can be covered before the final vote, I would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Representative Olson, for your second time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just on and for the bill against the amendment for the bill, I think I'll wait to hear some clarity, but I don't think it's going to change my mind for the bill against the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any other member for their second time? We are on second time, third reading, amendment number 2 to House Bill 18. Second time before the sponsor, Representative Washut.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to say, the original bill was very open-ended, kind of an unlimited number of these sites that might end up being funded. This amendment limits it to just 3 locations in the state. I think that's a great improvement to the bill, and I encourage everybody to support the amendment.
Thank you very much. Any other member for their second time before the sponsor? And I'm getting both the digital hands and the physical hands. So if you can use your digital hand, that helps me because it prioritizes you on my screen. It kicks you up in order, but when you're waving your hand, I don't know how long you've been waving it or who you're waving at. All right. Any other member for their second time before the sponsor? Seeing none, Chairman Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate the questions. I think good representative who brought the second reading amendment. You can see that section 2 of the bill dealing with the funding starts on line 6, page 2. This amendment has nothing to do with section 2. So that amendment is intact, the second reading amendment on all the private funding. And I should have probably made that clear. So this is all private funding. There's no state funding. And the director of parks said we would, if you wanted us to pay for, same as YDOT, you need to appropriate the money to us. And so this is currently just as the House voted on second reading on the, so I think the good representative from Teton and from Sweetwater both kind of asked that question. There was another question on the shall. That's my mistake as I read that. It's may in the bill still. And then I think good representative from Sheridan said, does it prohibit it from happening? The goal of the amendments to make the bill better, not to prohibit it from happening. I want to make it and put it with the right people and really narrow it down to really the 3 crash sites we're talking about. Those of us who are born and raised in this state know well about these crash sites, right? It's part of our, my parents were World War II folks. We know about it. And so I think as we all get older and pass on, it's kind of like the legislature, we named that bridge after a hero in Casper last year. Someday kids will stop in there and they'll read about it. And that's how we keep our great history alive. So appreciate all the great questions. I hope I answered all those. Didn't change anything with section 2 on the funding, just really narrowed it to these 3 sites and put it, I think, with the proper state agency that does this kind of work. So appreciate your support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman Harshman. So members, we are voting on third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 18. All those in favor, please raise your hand to your screen. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand to your screen. Thank you. The amendment has been adopted. We are now on third reading amendment number 1, House Bill 18. Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 18, and I will withdraw it at the appropriate time. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the last amendment, and actually I appreciate the amendment on second reading from the good representative out of the Green River area. But I still think that we need to have a little bit of a serious discussion on what this passage of this bill ultimately does look like at the end of the day. And ultimately, I have opposed this bill since it came through as being asked to be sponsored as a committee bill, voted against it to be a committee bill. Then when it was brought forward as a committee bill to be voted on in a new committee, I voted against it there. And I'm asking for your no vote on the bill ultimately altogether. While I recognize it's important to share our history, especially our military history and how important that is to our state and our heritage, I do think that we have to ask ourselves very blatantly, is this the right time? The last amendment does help in conjunction with the second reading amendment that we're looking at quote unquote non-state funds. That could still be utilized and could be interpreted as anything other than state general funds. And so while that could ultimately be construed as private donations, it could also be construed as other funds when you're looking at an appropriation. And those other funds, ladies and gentlemen, can and will be used to help save people's jobs. Can and will be used to help upgrade telephone equipment with the State Parks and Recs division. Any of these things that are within these agencies, now that we've moved it out of YDOT, some of the discussion that I originally had it doesn't quite make sense here, but it is a legitimate concern that we are still looking at potentially removing some of the funding out of this agency's money, or I'm sorry, out of this agency and moving it into these plaques. And potentially, it says they may. And frankly, I don't think that they're going to be spending the money on this when they have other things to be spending money on. But I think the biggest concern that I have here is people are losing jobs. We have people that are, we're cutting programs all across the state. We are reducing the amount of programs that are being helped to the disabled, to the elderly. And all of a sudden now we're saying that we want to open this up and we want to tell our history about the bomber program that crashed in the middle of Wyoming to the very, very small amount of people that may travel that section of road. And while I certainly understand the necessity of honoring our history, I think right now is the wrong time. While we are cutting budgets and while we are going across the state and reducing services provided to the citizens of Wyoming, now is not the time to be asking our state agencies to be doing more with less. So with that, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I will stand back. I would ask you to please vote no against this bill.
Thank you very much, Representative Brown. So any members for their first time, Chairman Olson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and for the bill and against the amendment, which, Mr. Speaker, is what I said on the last amendment, but that's because I thought I was on this amendment. I was for the last amendment, Mr. Speaker, and very much for the bill. So I wanted to just clarify for the body that it's still Monday morning and it's early, but I'm on the right amendment now. I'm against this amendment and I am for the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Chairman Harshman, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Against the amendment, for the bill. Members, I think if you go on the website and open up the second reading amendment number 1, that was sponsored by the good representative from Sweetwater County. Folks, I mean, it's pretty clear. It says page 2, line 4, that the department may accept donations, private funds from non-state entities for the design and placement of memorials under this section and shall not use state funds for purposes of this section. That's still in the bill. The amendment we adopted 5 minutes ago does not change that. So we're not going to take money from anything else in the state parks department. And so anyway, against the amendment, these are the kind of things I think we should be doing. And we should be honoring our people who've devoted, who've really given us the opportunity to be here today. And so again, against the amendment for the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I have Chairman Eklund, followed by Representative Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I think I am against the amendment and for this bill. I think we just saw a good way of improving a pretty good bill into a really good bill just by switching it to the parks and limiting it down. Probably is a good plan. If we need to expand that, we can do it at a later date. Since I'm free to talk during this kind of an amendment, I guess I'd like to get back to YDOT and some of the discussion that was had on one of the other amendments, that they have the money and they have the signage and they have this and that. And I guess having been past chairman of that committee and my committeemen have listened to some of the same testimony, we realize that the money that they haven't taken in cuts is usually being used up in money that is deferred maintenance. And last report I saw was over $300 million a year in deferred maintenance to either highways, trucks, or whatever they have. So I guess I wanted everybody in this body who's new, especially, and others, to know that the cuts are happening. We just haven't seen them yet. The highways haven't fallen off a cliff, and they've done the best they can with the resources that they have. And I think we want to be careful that just because it's a 1-point-something billion biennium budget doesn't mean that the money isn't well spent and that we aren't in some trouble as far as catching up with the financing of our highway system and other things in YDOT. So I just wanted people to be aware of that.
Thank you, Chairman. Next, we have Representative Duncan, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to give a little pushback on some of the continued comments about this particular bill. Number one, this is if funds are available. Number one, if funds are available. Funds are not available. Secondly, that these are remote areas that no one's going to see. I want to remind folks, there are people, number 2 industry in our state is tourism. There are people across the entire nation, across the world actually, who their big thing is history. They are history buffs that travel our entire state based on memorials, based on different areas of things like this. I happen to have a classmate who is a flight aeronautics buff. He travels all over for this exact kind of memorabilia, history, things like this, and an avid photographer. He spends every single weekend at an airport taking photographs of old aircraft flying in and out and different things. So this is exactly when we talk about economic diversification and things like this, this may seem really insignificant and small, but this brings people. It's on the radar for people, for tourists, for international travel and people getting off the radar. When we have these issues of the pandemic and people aren't flying, people are driving, people aren't staying in close quarters and things, people are getting in their motorhomes, they're driving across the country. travel trailers, students. May I remind you, a lot of kids are homeschooling now. People are taking their kids taking them on different trips and tours and things instead of being in the classroom. These are the exact kinds of things that parents and students are doing now, because they are going out and about looking at things. So it's not insignificant. It is an actual thing that puts us out there and gives us a piece of history, but it's also taps into that tourism. It's a something that's off the radar, something that we can tap into, that's going to be even a little bit more of. So think about it that way. It's a non-traditional way of us to look at economic diversification. And keep in mind, again, it is not funds that are being appropriated right now, because we don't have the funds. Thank you. Against the amendment on the bill.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Nyman first time, and then Ottman, and then Burt. Representative Nyman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to speak for the amendment and against the bill. I guess, as I've listened to this, and I've tried to be very objective about what we're trying to accomplish here, and I think what we're trying to accomplish is the ability to recognize people that have sacrificed their life for the freedom that we enjoy here right now. But again, and as I said the other day, most of the people and the folks that I'm talking to back in my part of the country are veterans. And they said that this is not what we're looking for right now. And I've even talked to some community leaders that have said that we would rather let people in the private sector generate those revenues and build that, as long as we know we can work and have a good working relationship with our Department of Transportation. And I know that as a new member of this body, it is, I've been kind of trying to watch and see how this money flows and stuff. But quite frankly, and I'm not, this is probably not a hill to die on, but in reality, it kind of is. Unless somebody can clarify this for me, I came down here with the understanding that we're not flush with money right now. And I was trained as a child as that if you mind the nickels, the dollars will take care of themselves. And if we don't do this from the standpoint of responsible spending, then I'm telling people back in my part of the country, the seniors that had their funding cut off and reduced, and they're doing different things and trying to find, and I've got community leaders and members that are trying to generate revenue and give money to those folks that have needs that have had to be reduced because of our situation. Then why would this not be in any different situation than that? Dollars in the state funds, wherever they are, if they come in, granted, I understand that that they're not there right now, but what we're doing is we're creating avenues for later on that we can start spending money when it does come in, that maybe needs to go someplace else. And so I guess to me, I would like to see us support responsible spending, no matter how large or small it is, because I think that sends the message and does what we're here to do, and let's try to be fiscally responsible in a situation where we need to be. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Ottman, Burt, and then Flitner. Representative Ottman.
Mr. Speaker, just for a point of clarification, do we have county parks and recreation departments that are probably part of the state, but definitively local parks and rec departments? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Burt, Flitner, and then Washut. Representative Burt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I'd like to thank everybody with their, all the constituents here, or sorry, all the constituents have sent out emails, both for and against. Those are the voices that we truly want to listen to. And then again, all the colleagues that are both for and against. And I'd like to reach out and say thank you for Representative out of District 37 for addressing some of the issues that were there within the original bill that question the validity of the bill itself. I too was against this in committee. I voted against this to the committee, and I just didn't agree with the intent of the bill well, let me take that back. I agree with the intent of the bill where we need to memorialize and remember those that have given their life for our country. What I don't agree with the bill is that we're looking at taking time out of our days to where we need to work on better legislation to figure out how we can better the economy of the state, and yet we're pushing a piece of legislation to a process that is already in place and already happens. And for me, that just seems like it's a little over the top on where we can actually focus a lot better of our direction to things that could truly matter. And when I look at it and we remove the state funds and the funding aspect of that, I do get that now that we're looking at private funds. And if there's no money or funds for the particular project itself, I don't want to come across as us voting on an empty gesture to have a feel good project out there. The directors of the agencies, if they can work amongst themselves without more government on top of what they already have to accomplish in their everyday lives, I say we just kind of back off. I'm not for the bill here, and even with the current third readings, let the agencies handle it as they have been. There hasn't been a problem with that. The original bill did come out, and that's where I had a problem with the funding side of it. That's been removed. But if we're not looking at providing state funds and the agencies have to deal with private funds, if they're already doing that, then I guess I don't understand why we're trying to push a bill to I don't know. I guess I truly don't understand why we're trying to push a bill to identify 3 spots in the entire state that can be handled at the agency level versus our legislative body level. With that, I am for the amendment against the bill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I have Chairman Flitner, Vice Chair Washut, and then Chairman Olson. Chairman Flitner for your first time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. On the bill against the amendment, my mother-in-law said one time, I'm not ready to be the oldest generation. And I didn't really get that at the time, but as I get near to that, the opportunity to say that myself, I get it. Having grown up near a couple of these sites, I recognize the fact that while I may know that history, then the next generation is not. And I think about the events of this summer where throughout the country, we saw so much of our history being torn down. We saw statues being torn down. We see so much of our history being canceled. And I think this is completely appropriate that we ensure that next generations understand the sacrifice that people made to ensure our freedom and our liberty in this country. So I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Washut, then Olson. Representative Washut, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think a couple of things stood out to me. One is the networking that took place between the previous amendment sponsor and the agencies. And what we didn't see were either of these agencies saying, why are you bothering with this legislation? Well, we've already got this. We didn't hear that. They didn't say you're wasting our time. They didn't say you're wasting your time. They didn't say that. They supported the legislation and they were on board with it. We've already addressed the state funds aspect of it, and we put additional sideboards to limit this to just 3 projects. I really don't see anything objectionable left in this legislation, and I'm going to vote for it. Hope everyone else does, and no on the amendment.
Thank you. Chairman Olson for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think it's actually my second time. So if you want me to wait until anyone for a first has had their opportunity, yep, I can do that.
My apologies. So any other member for their first time? Thank you, Chairman Olson. Any other member for their first time? Representative Newsom for your first time, and then Stiver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was on Transportation Committee when this was in part of our interim topics. And at that point, with the funding from YDOT still intact, I voted against this in committee. now that the funding piece has been taken out through the Second Amendment reading, I'm in favor of this, and I'm opposed to this amendment, in favor of the bill, and will certainly be a private donor into this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Stivar and then Hallinan for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On and for the amendment, against the bill. I agree with my good representatives. There's already a process to get these memorials up by different groups. We shouldn't be wasting our time on legislation that there's already a process to do, just by naming three places out. So against the bill, for the amendment.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Hallinan and then Representative Martinez. Representative Hallinan for your first time, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I'd like to say that I'm for the bill and against the amendment. The reason for that is what I said earlier. It's a free vote. It's not going to cost any money to the state. And that being the case, I think that we can just vote our emotions on this. And our emotions are right. These are people that we owe some recognition for. And I would also say, in final, that Representative O'Hearn had his hand up, and I don't think you saw his hand, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hallinan, I appreciate that, and I apologize to Representative O'Hearn. So we'll go with Martinez, Representative Martinez, and Representative O'Hearn. My apologies, Representative O'Hearn. And thank you to Representative Stivar, who was kind of motioned me in the chamber with sign language, which I could not understand. Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to say that I am against the amendment and for the bill. I had some concerns on funding previously. I think the sidebar, they resolved those issues, and I agree 100% that obviously tourism is number 2 industry in our state, and if we want to generate revenue, then that's what we do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative O'Hearn, and then Chairman Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm against the amendment and for the bill for the very reasons that Representative from District 26 was mentioning. We're losing too much of our history. Some people have said veterans aren't too concerned about this, but all of our veterans want to be remembered. That's all I have. Against the amendment, for the bill.
Thank you very much, Chairman Wilson. First time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Against the amendment and for the bill. And I want to say I've been really kind of going back and forth. The idea that, hey, they can do it anyway, so why would we butt in there, certainly seemed a valid point. But and I don't know the district number, but I thought that the person who spoke a few times ago from the northwest part of the state had a really valid point, just discussing the tendency to kind of destroy history and statues and that sort of thing. And I really think that rather than leave it to agencies to decide, that for us in the legislature to really put a stake in the ground and say, hey, here's some history that really happened and we care, I think that's a stake worth planting. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Representative Fortner for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say, I don't even know why we're running this thing as trying to make a law out of something as simple as putting a memorial up. There's been memorials, hundreds of them put up all across the nation and on all our highways in Wyoming by individuals that use their own money out of pocket. I think the whole concept of this bill, I don't see no common sense in it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other member for their first time? Any other member for their first time? Member for their first time. I'm just scanning to make sure I don't miss any hand waving. Representative Haroldson, first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I just want to thank everyone for the work they've done on this. And I do believe that history is the most important thing we can preserve. And so I'm definitely 100% for that. I have a background in living history, and I truly appreciate it. But I believe that the that maybe this is in some ways a frustration, at least for me, just that it feels like we've taken and stepped where we don't need to. This is already in place. We can already do this. And I think that that we as the legislative body have bigger issues at this moment, in my opinion, that we need to address and deal with. And so as I'm 100% for taking and preserving our history and establishing an opportunity for the next generation to know our history, because we're only one generation away from not having the freedoms we have. That's the honest truth. But I believe that it isn't something we need to legislate. So I am against this bill for those reasons. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any other members for their first time? For their first time. Representative Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am on and against the amendment and for the bill. And I liken this to when the United States Congress picks a certain date on the calendar and labels it in a certain way. Yes, that's not a necessary it's not a necessary action for Congress to do that, but they do it, and this body does that as well. And so I am on and against the bill, and I'm on and against the amendment and for the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members for their first time? Any other members for their first time? Any members for the first time? Going to second time. Any member who's spoken once would like to speak again. Representative Olson for your second time, and thank you for the reminder earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No problem. I'm on and against the amendment and for the bill. And I don't want to belabor the point because I think we're to the point where we're saying the same things over and over and over again. And I really couldn't say this any better than the good doctor from the land of the camels. I think he drove it home, because what I'm seeing as I'm listening to the debate is a lot of confusion, a lot of misunderstanding on this bill, a lack of understanding of how the appropriation process works and the expenditure works. And it concerns me because it's sending the debate in a confusing direction, but it's also shaping the way people are voting. There was an amendment that addressed the appropriation. First, if you back up to the original appropriation, it was money already obligated, already spent in a previous budget. So there's no new dollars. And then it was amended so that we're dealing with private donations. So if there's concerns from members about the appropriation, I think you got to put that one to rest because it's gone. If there's concerns I heard concerns that we could spend this money on the elderly or the destitute or others in need, but that's not accurate either, because it's they're private dollars now. So I think we have to look at the bill for what it really is and what it does. I think the last speaker actually pointed that out really well. Okay, we're very similar to just setting dates on a calendar at best is what you're doing, because you're picking where these memorials may end up. So I think that's important that we understand what the bill really does, and especially for the people, our constituents at home who are listening, who are watching this, lest they become confused that we're spending $20,000 when there are people in need, and that's completely false here. So I think we need to set that straight. But also, Mr. Speaker, I think we ought to, just on a somewhat side note and an educational note, I think we also need to sharpen our iron a little bit this morning. I think it's Monday morning and people are passionate, but I think the debate's starting to get a little personal for some folks, and I just remind the members to sharpen your words and things like saying that a bill is a waste of time. Is it? I mean, this is an interim. This came from an interim committee. To me, to not give this bill the time of day would be the opposite of what we should do, because a committee, your colleagues, spent an entire interim working on this bill. A lot of work went into this. So to not even hear it would have wasted their time. So I think we need to think about the words that we say. And when everyone's going to bring a bill at some point that someone's not going to like. And I might think that myself. I might say, gee, this bill's a waste of my time. Why did Representative so-and-so waste 3 hours of my day on it. But I'm not going to say that. And I just encourage members to think about that. No bill is a waste of time. We do big and grand things in Wyoming through legislation, and we do little things too. And even though something may seem little to somebody else, it impacts constituents. And a lot of what we do are some of these little things that end up being pretty big in the long run. You know, in terms of our time and how we spend that, I think the other thing that new members have to get used to is one of the things everyone wants to do is get in here and address the budget. Get it. It's a big issue. We're all hearing it at home. We've been hearing it for years, and we'll continue to hear it for the rest of Wyoming's existence, because dollars matter a lot to people. And you're going to get a time when we're going to spend, a week of our time on a supplemental budget, and that's all you're going to deal with when that happens. And it's going to be a balanced budget that's going to be presented to you. So I think just know that those issues, you're going to have time to address all the issues. You know, sharpen your words. We don't need to call any bill or any person's ideas a waste of time, or, whether it lacks common sense or not. I guess that's up to the individual, but I just encourage the body to sharpen the debate as we move forward on and against the amendment and for the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You are still muted, sir.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. Any other member for their second time? I think half of the House is eligible to speak. Any other member for their second time? Chairman Eklund.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I guess I'd address a couple of things. My guess is that if these memorials were ever going to happen on their own, they would have happened. This is 75 years ago. And I don't know how many people are still alive that would have known these folks that were killed in training accidents. But I'm guessing that maybe the families tried to get memorials going, didn't have the ability or didn't know how to get it done. The other thing that I'd address here, if you've been a private citizen trying to get something done on your own, it's oftentimes very hard. If you're a single legislator trying to get something done, you'll find it's very hard. We're not as important as we think we are. And I would just say that you get the input of the entire legislature behind an issue, and it's not going to cost the state anything, maybe some signage, maybe a little time, but that's what they're there for. What we've done with this bill, back to the committee. So I was a former transportation chairman. We heard it. We didn't spend a lot of time on it. If you've seen the list of bills that we did in the interim, you'd know why we didn't. But this body then has taken what was a good idea and made it a great idea by amending and doing what we do here, working a little magic on the bill. So we haven't wasted any time, but and my apologies to the new transportation chairman for all the bills, but there was a lot to cover. This one, the body has worked on it. It seems to be as good as it can be. If it's ever going to happen, we'll need legislation more than likely to get it to happen. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Eklund. I have Representative Martinez for your second time. Representative Martinez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I don't want to belabor the issue either. I just wanted to say that I'm against the amendment and for the bill with the changes that have been made. And I think we have now addressed, funding issue, but I also wanted to just add to that again as a previous employee of a good Department of Resources of Culture and Historic Sites. During Giant Frontier Days every year, except for during our last, because of COVID pandemic, many people come here from around the world, and they will come to the Historic Governor's Mansion, which is a Department of State Parks and Historic Sites. I don't know if I'm out of order by saying that name, and they love it, and they come here for it. And it is an education piece, and it does respect not just the history and the service of these men and women, and I think we need to acknowledge that this is not reinventing the wheel, and safeguards have been put in place. And so I do support the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, with against amendment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any other member for their second time before the sponsor? I'm scanning. I don't see anyone else. Representative Nyman, second time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I've listened to this and went back through and reread it, I just want to beg the body's, shall we say, patience with a new legislator that's down here trying to do it. I did not look at it and did not realize as I went back through this that the amendment by Representative Burt had changed that in there. I thought that was still in there. And so unless I'm wrong, I mean, as I read that, that does take out the need for state funds and allows private funding. So I appreciate that opportunity, and appreciate the opportunity to be able to say that. Thank you all. I support the bill.
Thank you very much, Representative Nyman, and all of our members. It's early in the week, so let's do our best to refrain from using individuals' names on the floor. The esteemed Marine, you can use that, but let's not use his name. How's that? All right. Any no worries. Any other members for their second time? Representative Haraldson, for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I do want to come forward in no way, shape, or form did I mean disrespect about something of, like I said earlier, about it being frivolous or a waste of time. I wasn't meaning as much the bill as it just seems like we've brought this one out to where it didn't need to be. You know, we've seen some really good amendments to this, and so, you know, it's a situation where history does need to be protected. So we'll do our very best to protect that. And I also understand that we need to just come into this situation and do our best to represent the people and do that. So thank you, and sorry if I brought any ire with my comments. I do apologize if I have. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any other member for their first time or second time? We're not going backwards. Any other member for their first time? We are not having a reset. Members for their second time? Before the sponsor. I'm checking for Representative O'Hearn. I don't see his hand waving. So, all right, we're back to the sponsor, Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll make my closing comments very brief here. I appreciate the amazing debate. I think this is a good situation early on in the 66th tier for all of us to vote your conscience. I do believe that we have made a bill a little bit better, and I will say that at sometimes in my legislative career, I've eaten a big old slice of humble pie, and this is one of those. You know, it's one of those times that you see that you get the feeling from the body that there's a lot of support behind something, and just because I may feel a certain way about it, the vast majority of your constituents and the people you represent feel strongly about this, and you also feel strongly about this as an entire body. So I would just ask you to vote your conscience. Just remember that yes, we are in a budget deficit at this point, and writing a piece of legislation to make us feel good. So when funds are there, it makes us feel good. Doesn't always sit well with me, but I personally would like to. I'd like to see us vote this bill down and come back with this bill once it comes down to it. You know, once we actually have some time, because at the end of the day, yes, we're taking money to get these memorials built, but it's still going to be the state employees that go out and do this work. And we're not paying those state employees from these funds. We're paying these state employees out of the general fund, and we're asking them to do more with less yet again. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I respectfully withdraw this and call for the question.
Thank you very much. House bill. Oh no, we don't have to vote on the amendment because it's withdrawn. So I've got to get my order of business here. So I apologize. So members, House Bill 18, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Andrew.
No.
Baker.
Aye.
Banks.
Aye.
Bear.
Aye.
Blackburn,
Aye.
Brown,
No.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Burt,
No.
Clausen,
Aye.
Clifford,
Aye.
Connolly. Aye. Crago,
Aye.
Duncan,
Aye.
Eklund,
Aye.
Air,
Aye.
Flitner,
Aye.
Fortner,
No.
Gray,
Aye.
Greer,
Aye.
Hallinan,
Aye.
Haroldson,
No.
Harshman,
Aye.
Heiner,
Aye.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hunt,
No.
Jennings,
No.
Kenner,
Aye.
Knapp,
Aye.
Larson Lloyd,
Aye.
Larson Dan,
No.
McGuire,
Aye.
Martinez,
Aye.
Nyman,
No.
Newsom, Newsom,
Aye.
Nicholas,
Aye.
Oakley,
Aye.
Obermuller,
Aye.
O'Hearn,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Ottman,
No.
Paxton,
Aye.
Provenza,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Sherwood,
Aye.
Simpson,
Aye.
Summers,
Aye.
Stiff,
Aye.
Stivar,
No.
Sweeney,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Washit,
Aye.
Western,
Aye.
Worf,
No.
Williams,
No.
Wilson,
Aye.
Winter,
Aye.
Yin,
No.
Zawanitzer.
Aye.
Mr. Speaker,
Aye.
closing vote. Are there any changes? Closing vote. The vote is closed. 46 aye, 14 no.
House Bill 18, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, House Bill 18 has passed the House. Next bill for our consideration is House Bill 30.
House Bill 30, sponsored by Revenue, Public Utility Assessment, an act relating to utilities, be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Wyoming.
Thank you very much. Chief Clerk, I just have one amendment. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. We have one amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 30 and ask for favorable consideration. So as talked about after our discussion on Friday, redrafted this amendment to include a date in which it would expire, which is July 1, 2035. And again, the Public Service Commission is very important to the future of our state. I mean, we heard from the chairman of corporations, and I really appreciate his work on these issues. I look forward to continuing to work with him on these issues that, you know, other states elect Public Service Commission members, and I certainly think that's something we need to look at. At the very least, I think we need to understand that the 3 commissioners are probably, if you were to rank the top 10 people that are going to decide the future of our state, I would rank them definitely in the top 10 and maybe even in the top 5, because they're going to make decisions about whether we accede to these demands that frankly have been put in place and are very biased for these closures of coal-fired power plants, putting thousands of Wyomingites' jobs, eliminating them. And I think we need to exhibit the legislative oversight, and a vehicle to do that is to say in this bill that they're going to have a moratorium on the approval of closures of a coal-fired power plant until July 1, 2035, with the idea being that that a motion would be required for an equipment change, and I have confirmed that. And so you can also have a moratorium on that motion, and it would provide certainty for the utility, which is a government-created monopoly. And it would provide certainty for them, and I think it would provide certainty for our constituents, thousands of whom jobs are at risk here, and provide certainty for the coal industry that supplies those coal-fired power plants. So it has ripple effects across our economy. I think that this is very appropriate for this bill. It's legislative oversight, and it provides agency oversight in one of these bills. So I ask for favorable consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any member for their first time? Majority Floor Leader Summers.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. And on and against the amendment. You take my county. So my county has some of the largest natural gas fields in America. And so we're going to put in a rule here that basically says, unless I'm misunderstanding this, that you couldn't convert one of those coal-fired plant units to natural gas, which would be a place that my county could then sell more natural gas to. So are you going to then decide to bias the industries in this state? Is that what would happen with this amendment? And so I guess my question to the bringer is that a fair assessment? Would you be biasing the industry of coal over the industry of my natural gas in my county? I just think this is I feel this is the wrong amendment at the wrong time, and particularly in this bill. So on and against the amendment.
So members, I'm going to caution us all to make sure we're speaking to the issue and not what folks' motivations or other things might be. I think that we all care about all the parts of Wyoming and all of our resources. And I don't think there's my resources and your resources. I think it's Wyoming resources and Wyoming citizenry that are interested in these issues and these topics. So I'll just caution us to keep that on the issues, not on maybe motivations or things like that. So with that, I have Representative Bear, Zwanitzer, and then Stith. Representative Bear, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On and for the amendment, and I would like to address the good representative from District 20's concern about natural gas prices or natural gas use in power plants. I think the federal government has made it clear that they prefer natural gas over coal, and this state is going to have very, very few places to sell our coal. We're having difficulty getting it even out of the country to third world nations that need this coal desperately. And so I would like to see that preference to that particular natural resource. The natural gas resource is important as well, and I support all the industry that's going on in the good representative's district. But I think that opportunity to sell that particular resource is going to be available a lot longer than coal will, simply because we've had something called the war on coal, and it has given a dark name to this product, which I personally believe is not an accurate portrayal of the product. But that is why I believe this body and the state in general has got to fight to keep that particular resource available. And here's one opportunity for us to do it. And so I am, again, on and for the amendment.
Thank you very much. I have Chairman Zwanitzer, Representative Stith, and then Roscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Generally against the amendment, and I really do appreciate that the good sponsor of the amendment is trying, and I think he's on the right track. My main concern is the date of 2035. That I think it's just too long out for 15 years, and we could come back and amend that in future years. And I don't believe we do have any coal plants scheduled in the next year or two to close down at this time. But my concern, I guess my question is, if anybody else can answer this one for me, when I read the language on 17 and 18 in the amendment, it's on the approval of any public utilities action to retire a coal-fired electric generation facility. It doesn't say in Wyoming. And so for most of these utilities, right, they have a expansive grid, our largest in the state, without saying their name, operates in about 8 different states. But for any of those public utilities, we have a multitude. They do have some coal facilities in other states that aren't in Wyoming. And so my worry or my question, a little bit of both, is what happens if any of those utilities, even a small scale one, decides to shut down one of their even small electric generation fired facility from coal. We have a couple in Arizona, one in Montana. Would that, in effect, mandate no assessment if it's outside of Wyoming? And the way I read this language, I think it does. And so I'm not quite sure it's fair that if our Public Service Commission, went through a rate case based on a utility closing a coal plant in a different state, if we would therefore stop the assessment, seems a little biased and not right to me. So if I could get that question answered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Stith, Roscoe, and then Nicholas. Representative Stith.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. I speak in support of this amendment, understanding, however, that it's not perfect. I think it's legitimate to talk about the effect on other industries and other minerals in the state. And so with respect to the comments from the good representative from District 20, I think the reality is that utilities are very unlikely to convert or build even a natural gas fired power plant in our state, because utilities find it cheaper to transport the natural gas to where the population centers are. On the economics of this amendment, we should have a dry-eyed understanding that the implications of this amendment would mean higher electric utility rates, in part because we export 85% of our coal-fired electricity production. So if other states don't buy it and we're saying that you have to keep running this thing, we're going to have to pick up the costs, and that could have knock-on effects that could affect our industrial users and the high-tech sector to the extent that it exists in Wyoming as well. So I think the amendment's not perfect, but on in support.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Roscoe, Nicholas, Western, Harshman. Representative Roscoe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just have a question on and against the amendment. A lot of concerns about the economy of it all. And I just have a question for the bringer of the amendment. How would this amendment affect ratepayers as the cost of coal seems to be going up? And also, how would it affect ratepayers with bankruptcies that are occurring in our state? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Chairman Nicholas, for your first time. Members, just so we're all on the same page, we're on third reading amendment to third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 30. Chairman Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and on and against the amendment, ladies and gentlemen. So this is it's a pretty complicated issue. I spent about 3 hours yesterday speaking with 2 of the Public Service Commission appointees and trying to figure out what this bill does and what it doesn't do. So, and what this amendment does. And I think it's important that we understand kind of where we're coming from and what this does. This bill was brought because there is basically the amount of power that pays our bills. One of the largest providers is not going to produce as much power as they used to. And we charge the mill on these large power producers in order to pay the costs of the Public Service Commission, their operational costs, because we don't want everyone to pay it. We created a mechanism that the users of the power pays the bill. Because the total demand on power is going to go down in the future, we have to raise this an incremental level in order to pay the bills for the Public Service Commission. If we don't do it, they're going to have to get rid of about 8 employees just to have a balanced budget and do what they do. So they came to, before the committee and said, we need to do this in order to continue our operations to review the rates of these large providers. And so that's what this bill does. And if you look at the bill, I mean, it's entitled Increasing the Maximum Utility Assessment in order for them to function. That's what they do. So what does this amendment does? This amendment basically says, well, we don't care how much it costs you to operate. We want you to put a moratorium on closing a coal mine now through 2035. So what happens if we impose a moratorium without knowing what and how we do it? So right now, we import 85% of this power off to other states. But the way that what the rule works is we have an agreement among the states around us that if we decide to support a coal mine that is no longer cost effective, meaning you can get cheaper power from another place, and when we export the coal to these other states, we being the state of Wyoming, has to pay for those added costs. So if it costs us to keep a coal mine open and to keep 300 employees because the operation of it is no longer cost effective on the market, then we have to pay for it. So back in 2018, we passed a bill that said that anytime a coal plant closes, they have to offer that coal plant for sale on the public market, so that if it can be competitively operated, someone will come in and buy it from some of these large folks that may have an agenda against coal. We did it because we want to protect coal and we want to protect coal power plants. I'm 100% in favor of that. But this bill simply pays the bills for the Public Service Commission to operate. It has nothing to do, I would respectfully say, with whether or not you close down a power plant or not. We have closed power plants in the past, a few because they were uneconomical. The job of the Public Service Commission is to provide safe, reliable energy to the people of Wyoming at the lowest cost possible. So by passing this amendment, we're going to say we don't care how much it costs. We don't care what the rates are. We're going to keep these power plants open because we want a moratorium on them. Well, we can do that. We can do that just like we did in Senate File 159 2 years ago. We can create a bill that says we don't want to close power plants and this is what we're going to do to do it. This bill simply pays the bills for the Public Service Commission. It is unrelated to whether or not we want to close power plants or not. We're just trying to get bills paid. So now we're doing this tag-on amendment to say, oh, by the way, not only we want to pay you, but we only pay you if you want to agree to this, that we're not going to close power plants. And I would respectfully submit that, and I would be happy to work with the bringer of this amendment. We can create a bill to protect power plants, but we shouldn't do it at the auspices of whether or not we pay the Public Service Commission and their employees. So on and against the bill, on and against the amendment and for the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Western next, followed by Harshman and Hallinan. Representative Western, for your first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I appreciate the words that were just spoken before me by the good representative from Laramie County. Ultimately, as I see it, this amendment is something that's supposed to help the coal industry. And I am 100% for that. Absolutely. But I think that this amendment might be, perhaps a little ham-handed in doing so. Again, excellent intent, and I'm right there with you. But I think that this just isn't the right amendment and the right bill to do it. I mean, I think there's things that we could do this session. Certainly, with the supplemental budget, I think that absolutely will help generate bang for the buck and help our coal industry. But I think this just strong-arming the commission to strong-arm these power generators. I just don't know if that's the best way to go about helping the industry. I mean, I think, for example, a better way might be, there was some media coverage about how money was put into the supplemental budget, I think 2 or 3 years ago, that was used to lobby other states to encourage the power plants in those states to continue to burn coal. that actually I think is generating a lot of bang for the buck. So I think that's just one example of what can be done. So I think what the amendment is trying to do is excellent. I just don't think this is quite the right way to do it. So that's why I would discourage this amendment. So I'm on and against. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. So members, I have Chairman Harshman, Hallinan, and Banks, and I want to remind folks again, let's not try not to characterize what we think, use descriptors to characterize other people's efforts to move legislation forward or not. So thank you very much. Chairman Harshman, for your first time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the debate on this, and we've all been fighting this. And the good representative from Campbell County, the war on coal, it's a bunch of crap. We all know it is. We could clean the Earth's environment by shipping our coal to Asia. We all know that, and we've been fighting for it for years. And I think back to Governor Hathaway. I mean, we have the coal industry here because of the Clean Air Act, shut down Eastern coal, and it was going to go to Montana. And that governor, who was in some circles booed, went out and recruited the coal industry to come to Wyoming, put a severance tax on them, and changed the state. Right? It's been building our state for 50 years. And oil and gas has always done this up and down thing, but coal has just been kept on steady growth. It's been remarkable. And I tell you, the war on gas and oil is just starting. So we better get ready. And they're not done there yet. I mean, the war on cattle, grazing, right? It's coming. I mean, and so we got to make sure we got all our ducks in a row and keep fighting. And so what's the best way to fight and to do this? Because I'm with you. We all want to send a message. I told you last week I put $500,000 in the coal export litigation fund back in 2014. Got national news. Didn't move the needle. And we got to keep fighting and keep working this stuff. But so then, is this the right mechanism? And I get it. We set policy as legislators, and we also send messages, what's important to us and important to our state. And this is the right message. There's no doubt about it. And the problem is only 8% of our coal is used in Wyoming. We ship the rest of it out. And unfortunately, a lot of it to the Midwestern grid, where we're not even connected in, and we don't even have any kind of relation. One company that the PSC regulates that serves 7 other states, and it's got a mountain range in its name, right? And then the only other company the PSC in this area really regulates has got hills in its name. And, I talked the other day, the Laramie River Station, the Dry Fork Station, those are not regulated by the PSC. Don't have one thing to say about it. So what's the best way to do this? Is it to not fund our Public Service Commission? I think that's bad for business. I think it's bad for the coal companies. I think it's bad for oil and gas. And it's certainly bad for the average person in Wyoming who's going to pay higher electric rates. We want the Public Service Commission to regulate these large, huge corporations that have a monopoly in our state. And to link this on there for an important statement, I agree. But let's bring a bill. We got this little period in time, and I'll work with the sponsor on a bill too. If we want to think outside the box and another way to do this, carbon capture is going to be important to this. But again, we need carbon capture in Illinois, in Texas. Only 8% of it's in Wyoming. And so we just got to keep fighting and keep educating. But to do this to our own state agency is not the right thing to do. It won't work. I think it violates due process. And I think it goes against basic utility law. And so again, I think that everybody's heart's in the right spot on this. I don't think this bill is the right vehicle for this statement. And so again, I think pass the bill. We need to pay 10 cents more a month on our electric bill if we have to. I think COVID is going to be over and we're going to see a V-shaped recovery. I believe that. I think we're going to see a V-shaped recovery and you won't need this. But we don't want to lay off 8 experts and then for a year's time, and then because we can't pay the bills. And so again, I think it's an important bill, and I urge your no vote on the amendment, but your aye vote on the bill. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, members, for the great debate.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Hallinan next, Representative Banks, and then Representative Fortner. Representative Hallinan, Vice Chair Hallinan, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I really appreciate the comments of the previous speaker. I think that this is the only bill that I know that we can take a position on this issue here in this session. And for that reason, I'm for this amendment. We need to stake out our position. And our position is that coal has a future in Wyoming and in the United States. And I don't know for sure that this is the most viable method of doing something, but I think it is something that we can do now. And the fact that this one mill is not going to be in jeopardy for the next few years, because it's been said that there's not going to be any moratorium in the next couple of years. So this one mill is really not an issue right now. So I think we can pass this amendment, and then if we need to make a change later on, we can do that. But I think we need to stake out our position now. And the Speaker of the House said, in regards to a bill, that we need to pass it in order to see what it has in it. Well, I think that's kind of the case in this bill and in this amendment. And I don't really agree with the Speaker of the House on very much, but I agree with her on that. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I am for this amendment and for the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Just to be clear, I don't think he was referring to this Speaker of this House. Thank you very much, in case anybody didn't catch that. For first, I have next Representative Banks and then Representative Fortner. Representative Banks, for your first time.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. On and against the amendment. My community was founded on coal. You see, the sign behind me is one of the most iconic structures in our community. My great-great-grandparents came through our community and founded this community, and they came here from Germany, from Yugoslavia, from Italy to mine coal. It's incredibly important to me and to my community. And I think this sends the right message, but I don't think the method is right in how we're going about it with this amendment. And so I'm worried about what that means down the road. The plants just to the east here are looking at closing and looking at phasing out. And I don't know that this is the way to tell private industry that you can't do what you need to do in our state in order to operate. We should let private industry, I think, do what they need to do and retool however we need to retool to support those workers, to support retraining efforts, and to allow those workers to make a good living in Wyoming. I'm just not sure this is the way. So on and against the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Fortner and then Representative Sweeney. Representative Fortner, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm for the amendment. Only thing wrong with that amendment was it didn't include all fossil fuels. I think if he would have did that, it'd been a much better amendment, but I'm for the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Sweeney, for your first time. Members, just to remind us and the public where we are, we're on third reading of amendment number 1 to House Bill 30. Representative Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great discussion. I'm for the bill against this amendment. And for the following reasons, I wore my friends a coal pin this morning that I got about, I think it was 5 years ago at a Department of Interior function on the coal export facility, and listened to folks from fisheries on the West Coast and others against fossil fuels, but I don't think anybody is against coal. I certainly am not. And we want to do everything we can to protect it. But at the same time, I don't see this amendment as the vehicle, as was stated much better from my colleagues from House District 8 and 37. And so let me give you a couple of, for instance, and it's not as neat and simple solution as it seems. And it's been already said that this is quite a complex issue with the multi-states and the PURPA and what little I know about these things, having sat on corporations for one session. I don't think this is the practicality of it or it's viable, because as I read the amendment and urge a no vote on the amendment, it's inconsistent with other parts of our state statute. And where I'm going with that is, my belief is that if you really look at Senate File 159 that's been referenced, which deals with the sale of these power plants, I believe that this potential moratorium in this amendment could be ill-fated and force the current operator to keep operating without the viability of selling to another operator. And to that end, if you turn to page 5 in the bill, starting on the current line 5, where it represents 37-2-133, and it describes that, but I think 159 with the previous language in the amendment, in my mind, and I'm certainly not an attorney, but in my mind, this moratorium, if the amendment is passed, could be a direct hindrance to moving forward as we want it to. Senate File 159 is its intent. And that's my belief on that, is an unintended consequence. The other unintended, I think there's numerous unintended consequences, but the other in particular is the potentially catastrophic result to our ratepayers, Wyoming ratepayers. And this was, and I believe it's a substantial risk with the amendment. How so? And the good previous speakers from House District 22, 43, and 48 alluded to the ratepayers situation. And so what I would say to that is that I believe, with all of the agreements in place on the multi-state agreements and contracts with one of our largest utility and the exports of that power. So we create, with this amendment, my belief is you create an island, and Wyoming becomes that island. if you put this moratorium. And a previous speaker mentioned our ratepayers, Wyoming's ratepayers, are going to end up, I'm fearful that our ratepayers would pick up the tab to keep burning coal, because the other ratepayers in other states have already said, we don't want that power. And just by saying it in statute that we want that, which I'd love to be able to say that, but I don't think it's applicable in this bill. And I worry about creating that island effect where our ratepayers may end up paying double, triple, quadruple, whatever it ends up. And it's already been mentioned, I think there's two facilities that aren't regulated by the Public Service Commission, and another one facility that's partially under the regulation, but possibly not. So I would ask that you not, this isn't sending a clear message. This isn't in the right spot. I would agree with others that let's try a different mechanism and a different bill to make these statements. I believe we already have it in 159 and also partially in 200, but I urge a no vote, and thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Jennings next, and then Representative Yin. We're on first time, third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 30. Representative Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, I guess I have a hard time understanding this. This is a resource that has touched everybody's life in Wyoming. It has provided education for our children, school buildings. It is worth fighting for this industry. And this is one area that we can do this. It's not the only area. I look very much forward to seeing those members who offered to draft more help in this war. And hopefully they'll bring that in our later session. And I certainly would be supportive of seeing that. I certainly hope they do bring that. But let's press this first. And we have this before us today. And it's an opportunity to stand up in this war that has been proclaimed against our industry that has done so much. And I just think it's important. This is a good amendment. It does make a statement. You know what? If there creates a problem somewhere, we're used to being able to come back and fix a problem. I don't see that it's going to. It's a good place to put it, on and for the amendment.
Thank you very much. Representative Yin, and then Craigo for the first time. Representative Yin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I've been browsing Title 37, which is the title in our green books that define the Public Service Commission and their powers. And for me, it's not clear that the Public Service Commission actually has the power to grant a moratorium. So what we'd be doing with this amendment is telling the Public Service Commission that they can't have a rate increase unless they do something that they don't actually have the power to do. So if they don't actually have the power to do this, you're essentially saying that they just can't have the rate increase because they can't do something to get the rate increase, then they just won't get the rate increase. If the legislature deems it necessary to create a moratorium for coal-fired electric generating power plants, then the way to do it is in a separate bill. The Public Service Commission doesn't have the power to issue a moratorium, but we do as the body. So rather than try to push off this responsibility by making a statement and asking the Public Service Commission to do it, we should be the ones taking the responsibility to make that stance ourselves and to say to our constituents that we're not blaming the Public Service Commission for not being able to do something that they can't actually do. It should be upon us to make that decision ourselves on if we actually want to grant a moratorium. And that should be something that we do as a body, not something that we ask another commission to do that they can't actually do. So I wanted against this amendment. They need this assessment increase to create a proper rate regulation environment for the betterment of all of our constituents. And if we pass this amendment, they won't have that power, and we're still pushing off the responsibility that we as a body should be putting on ourselves. So I look forward to seeing a debate on an actual bill to do it, rather than seeing it done as a condition for an assessment increase. And I will vote against this amendment and ask you all to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Representative Craigo, for your first time. Any other members, please queue yourself up. Representative Craigo, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First for a second.
Thank you very much. Any other members for their first time? First time, Chairman Greer.
First for a second, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members wish to speak for their first time? Third reading, Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 30. Representative Larson, Dan, please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. First for the second.
Thank you. Any other member for their first time? First time, Representative Conley. My apologies, Madam Minority Floor Leader. Representative Conley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First for a second.
Representative Wharf, for your first time.
First for a second, Mr. Speaker.
I can just make this a universal motion and give everybody a first for a second if you'd like.
Thank you.
Representative Knapp, for your first time.
First for a second, Mr. Speaker.
Any other members wish to speak for the first time? First time.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative O'Hearn, thank you for notifying me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with the good representative from District 16. It sounds like it's a quid pro quo in this amendment. If you don't do this, we won't give you X, and you give us Y. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any other member for their first time? Any other member for their first time? Thank you. Any member for their second time? Second time before the sponsor. Second time before the sponsor. We'll go with Representative Wharf.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. The security change does have a requirement to do any motion, or they have a requirement for motion to do any equipment change. So I do think it's important to understand it's been stated that they don't have that power, that authority. The bringer of this motion mentioned that, I believe, when he first brought an amendment to this bill. I can't remember if that was on the second read. I think it had to have been the second reading, Mr. Speaker. But I do think we need to send a clear message. I don't think this hurts anything. I would encourage, a lot of people said bring another bill forward. I don't think that lessens the importance of having this. So I will be supporting this amendment, and I urge the body's support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Wharf. Any other members for their second time? Second time, Majority Floor Leader Summers. Second time, and then Chairman Zwanitzer.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. And first of all, I would like to, thank everybody in coal country and coal for all it's done for the state of Wyoming. But we in fact do have a coal-fired unit that was converted to natural gas in Southwest Wyoming. And I do think this amendment biases one industry, unfortunately, against another. And I do believe this amendment is out of place. And so for that reason, I do not support this amendment.
Thank you very much, Chairman Zwanitzer, for your first time, and then Representative Craigo.
Thank you.
Second time, excuse me, second time, Zwanitzer, then Craigo. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, I've read through it a couple times, and I don't honestly know if the PSC has the power to do a moratorium the way this anticipates. But I do know that if I'm not sure and other people aren't totally sure, that the lawyers, shall we say, for some of the larger utilities can find creative ways to say they don't have that power. But I did look up all the rate cases last year, and the PSC did approve a rate case for our largest electric utility that closed a coal mine or coal-powered plant in Arizona. So it didn't affect Wyoming, but our PSC did approve as part of the rate-making process that closure, along with all of the other states and our largest utility name for the mountain range there. So the way I read it, because our PSC did approve that, we're going to have an issue and they won't be able to raise that assessment for the next year. And I don't know with timing how that exactly works, but I do have serious concerns that this amendment, while well-intentioned, if we're not 100% sure on it and we haven't had a public hearing to allow the PSC and some of the utilities to comment on it, it's just dangerous is the honest answer. Even if it's well-intentioned and it works and it would all work perfectly, I don't think that's where we want to go as a body, passing slightly murky legislation that affects millions upon millions of dollars and people's livelihoods. So I would ask you to resist it. But if there is a bill coming for next month, we certainly can have time to put something good together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have Representative Crago for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe in the statement that's being made by this amendment, and I believe we should make that statement as a body. I just don't believe we should do it at the expense of the PSC. And really what I mean by that is I am worried that really from a legal standpoint, that the moratorium language contained within the amendment may not withstand legal challenges. And if it doesn't, the way the language ties the moratorium to the funding of the PSC, we will be cutting potentially 25% of the PSC's Public Utility Commission's funding right off the bat. And so for, and I don't, and looking at it, I don't think it's severable. So if someone brings a legal challenge, we can't divide out that, from a legal standpoint, we can't divide out that assessment from the moratorium language itself. And so for that, I would urge a no vote on the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Any other member for their second time? Second time. Second time before the sponsor. Second time before the sponsor. Representative Gray's getting ready to go. Second time before the sponsor. To the sponsor, Representative Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So to respond to these points one by one, first, the representative from Pinedale on the biasing argument on natural gas. This does not stop a motion for a conversion of a power plant. It stops a motion for a closure. It puts a moratorium on any coal-fired power plant closure. So it's very important we realize what the difference in the motions are. Responding to the chair of corporations on the out-of-state issue. Well, I talked with Mr. Petrie. He was clear it was be a motion for an equipment change within their jurisdiction, which is within our state.
Representative Gray, I'm just going to remind you, we're not using names of people. We're naming people on the floor.
Thank you. When I talked with the chairman of the Public Service Commission, he was pretty clear. It's for Wyoming situations where that equipment change would be that motion would be brought. To respond to the representative from Wilson on how this affects ratepayers, it's going to affect ratepayers in a great way because it will make sure the reliability, the grid's reliable. And responding also to the comments from the chairman of appropriations down here in Laramie County, and this gets into the point on ratepayers too, we're not in the game. The multi-state protocol is a negotiation. So we haven't brought forward the negotiation of what the cost will be if we keep a coal-fired power plant open because they haven't done the motion. And this is the overall point. It gets to his comments too about the appropriateness of it. It's very appropriate because this is legislative oversight. Why keep those 8 positions if they're not going to be serving our state in the way we want them to serve them? And this is the overall point with the Public Service Commission. They haven't done, they say, well, the IRP doesn't do anything. Well, then they go on an investigation in the IRP. They release you know, these 25 questions last week that they're going to ask anytime an IRP is submitted, but they said the IRP doesn't do anything. At the end of the day, the way you solve this is to get in the game with the multi-state protocol by saying and giving certainty that we are not going to close a coal-fired power plant. Now, the comments from the representative outside of Sheridan and the representative from Casper about this being a quid pro quo or strong arm, if that's true, then every appropriation is a quid pro quo. Because every appropriation says they shall do this with the money that is appropriated. We're saying that as part of their assessment, keeping these 8 positions, we're going to tell them that they got to take a stand. They got to get in the game in the multi-state protocol. Now, responding to the former speaker from Casper on the coal litigation fund, you know, I would say, Mr. Speaker, I really appreciate your work on coal litigation fund, but the problem there back in 2014 was the governor didn't do anything about it, the head of the executive branch. So we had to come back in 2019 and pass a bill saying that the legislature is going to take action on the coal exports. If they don't, they still waited another year after they vetoed. And what happened? Because of that year loss, and I appreciate the speaker's help on that bill, the coal export terminal went bankrupt. We ran out of time. Same thing is happening right now. The score's 21-0, and we got to stop allowing them to have 12 players on the field illegally and not allowing us to do the same. Because that's what's happening here. Now, responding to the newly elected representative from Rock Springs about this being about private industry, it's a utility. The government created a utility, which by definition is a monopoly. So we have the ability to provide this legislative oversight and to say that they shall, through a motion, just like the equipment changes a motion, through a motion, they're going to have a moratorium on the closure of coal-fired power plants. In terms of this idea of this being a bill, look, there's a layered approach here. We've got a bill on having an electricity production system, which, by the way, we've run 4 times, and they come in and say, we can't do that, even though the states on the West Coast have the opposite of renewable fuel standards. That's one approach, but that can still be gotten around. The only way, I mean, you can have a bill saying they shall have a moratorium, but why not do it here where it's over? I think that's very appropriate. And frankly, that's the way we should be writing revenue bills. If we're going to add revenue to a agency, then we should be saying some parameters on what they're going to do. That's the way it works on an appropriation. Responding to the new representative from Buffalo, you know, one thing I think we need to do is we need to get out of this defeatism. I think this defeatism is really hurting our state, where we're just going to say that we can't do this, we can't do that. That was not the attitude by California, Oregon, and Washington when they passed these renewable fuel standards 2-3 decades ago, which I don't think are legal. And they tell us on the electricity standard, fossil fuel standard, I call it, that's illegal. So we got to get out of this defeatism, this notion of defeatism that we can't do this, we can't do that. It is severable, by the way. The way we wrote it, it's a new subsection. So you could delete that subsection, and the rest would still be in place, because what we did with the 2035 sunset date is we created a new subsection as part of that. So you could just delete that subsection, and the rate increase would remain in place. Now, responding to the representative from Casper on SF 159 and the idea that they could sell a coal-fired power plant, you know, I think this strategy, while I did vote for the bill, frankly, I don't think it's going to work. And I am getting a little frustrated with on this issue where we need to take a really strong stance, maybe throw a 20-yard pass, and we have these little handoffs that maybe you'll gain 3 or 4 yards that I don't think are going to work. And they're broad as the answer. The reality is that within a utility, the idea of selling it and managing that outside of the system, I highly doubt it's going to work. And it allows them to do that. It allows them to have a motion to change ownership. It says they shall not close. They shall not allow the motion for an equipment change or closure. So it's not inconsistent with SF 159, but I really don't think SF 159 is enough, and frankly, I don't think it's going to work. And so we got to have a layered approach here. We've got to add the tools to the toolkit. The reality is current statute allows them to do this because they've said that they view reliability as a reason to prevent an equipment change, yet they haven't said they're going to do it. And that's ultimately the statutory basis for this, that it's about reliability on the grid. And we already have that. And I'm for making that more explicit. I got a bill to make that more explicit, but ultimately that still leaves it in their hands. And it just doesn't seem like they're getting the job done. And this is the place, legislative oversight. This is where we do it, folks. Where we say that this is what we want them to do as part of their funding, part of their mandate. This is the way an appropriation works. You know, I was thinking about how I want to end this, but you know, I really think that the score has been run up. Maybe it's 24-0, not 21-0, but they've had 12 players on the field every possession. And then we get the ball back and they call a penalty every time we put 12 players on the field. And I'm getting tired. And we need to take a stand at some point, do what these other states have done to put us in this position. And I ask you to please, let's get out of this defeatism. And let's pass this and say we're going to take this. It's not just a stand, it is a strategy. It's good legislating. And let's stop this bifurcation and try to get this game back even and have a level playing field on a utility. So I ask for an aye vote on this amendment. Thank you.
All right, members, so we are voting on the third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 30. And based on the vote we had on second reading amendment, I'm just going to go directly to the chief clerk to call a roll. Chief clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Andrew.
Aye.
Baker.
Aye.
Banks.
No.
Bear.
Aye.
Blackburn.
Aye.
Brown.
No.
Burkhart.
No.
Burt.
Aye.
Clausen.
No.
Clifford. No. Connolly. No. Crago.
No.
Duncan. No. Eklund.
No.
Air.
No.
Flitner.
No.
Fortner.
Aye.
Gray.
Aye.
Greer.
No.
Hallinan.
Aye.
Haroldson.
Aye.
Harshman.
No.
Heiner.
Aye.
Henderson.
No.
Hunt.
No.
Jennings.
Aye.
Kinner. Kinner. No. Knapp.
Aye.
Larson Lloyd.
No.
Larson Dan.
Aye.
McGuire.
No.
Martinez.
Nope.
Nyman. Nyman.
Aye.
Newsom. No. Nicholas.
No.
Oakley.
No.
Obermuller.
No.
O'Hearn.
No.
Olson.
No.
Ottman.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Paxton.
No.
Provenza. No. Roscoe.
No.
Schwartz.
No.
Sherwood.
No.
Simpson.
Aye.
Summers.
No.
Stiff.
Aye.
Stivar.
Aye.
Sweeney.
No.
Walters.
No.
Washit.
Aye.
Western.
No.
Wharf,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Wilson,
No.
Winter,
Aye.
Yin,
No.
Zawanitzer.
No.
Mr. Speaker,
Aye.
closing vote. Are there any changes? Closing vote. The vote is closed. Is there a change?
Blackburn, aye to no.
Blackburn, aye to no. Further changes? Closing vote. The vote is closed. 22 aye, 38 no.
Thank you very much, Chief Clerk. Senate File 30, having been read 3 separate times.
Wait. That was the amendment.
So the amendment has been defeated. We're back on the bill. No further amendments. House Bill 30, having been read 3 separate times. The question is, shall the bill pass? Chief Clerk, please call the roll.
Andrew,
No.
Baker,
No.
Banks,
Aye.
Fair,
No.
Blackburn,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Burkhart,
Aye.
Hurt,
No.
Clausen,
Aye.
Clifford,
Aye.
Connolly,
Aye.
Crago,
Aye.
Duncan,
Aye.
Eklund,
Aye.
Air,
Aye.
Flitner,
Aye.
Fortner,
No.
Gray,
No.
Greer,
Aye.
Hallinan,
Aye.
Hallinan, aye. Haroldson,
No.
Harshman,
Aye.
Heiner,
No.
Henderson,
Aye.
Hunt,
No.
Jennings,
No.
Kenner,
Aye.
Knapp,
No.
Larson Lloyd,
Aye.
Larson Dan,
No.
McGuire,
Aye.
Martinez,
Yes. Aye.
aye. Nyman,
No.
Newsom, aye. Nicholas,
Aye.
Oakley,
Aye.
Obermuller,
Aye.
O'Hearn,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Ottman,
No.
Paxton,
Aye.
Provenza,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Schwartz,
Aye.
Sherwood,
Aye.
Simpson,
No.
Summers,
Aye.
Stiff,
Aye.
Stivar,
No.
Sweeney,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Washit,
Aye.
Western,
No.
Wharf,
No.
Williams,
No.
Wilson,
Aye.
Winter,
No.
Yin,
Aye.
Zawanitzer.
Aye.
Mr. Speaker,
No.
closing vote. Are there any changes? Closing vote. The vote is closed. 39 aye.
Chief Clerk?
It's too late.
Okay.
21 no. 39 aye, 21 no.
Thank you, Chief Clerk. House Bill 30, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the House, House Bill 30 has passed the House. Mr. Majority Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the House stand in recess until 2 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. So members of the House, we have committees meeting now, and so we do have one more bill on third reading, but it has amendment as well. So we're gonna break now for our committees to go meet. We'll be back at 2 o'clock. Now, it's not uncommon for when we're whether in person or virtual for committees to continue to meet if they need to finish up a short amount of business, and we'll come back on the floor and do our business. We'll not, they want to be here when we do the third and final vote, obviously. So if our members, all we need is a quorum to initiate our business, and they will get back here if there's somebody running a little long. I want to make a couple notes. Please review your emails, as there's an email from our director regarding a discussion that we've been having with our colleagues down the hallway about our rule process. And we'll take a look at that. And when we come back from lunch, we'll go into a little further into that. Are there any committee announcements? Any announcements? Any announcements? Chairman Zwanitzer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 7, Corporations, Elections, and Political Subdivisions, will meet at 12:35 on Zoom to hear Senate File 29, Notarial Act, Senate File 14, Credit for Reinsurance, and Senate File 18, Universal Occupational Licensure, if time.
Thank you. Chairman Paxton. Chairman Paxton, I think you're still muted, friend.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your committee number 4, Education, will meet immediately upon noon recess to consider one bill, Senate File 57, School Finance States for Refund.
Thank you very much. Any other motions? Any other motions? So members, the other thing we'll be doing is hopefully have a committee of the whole as soon as we return after third reading, committee of the whole, and then we'll address the rules discussion as well. I have Chairman Nicholas, announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your House Appropriations will meet in 5 minutes to hear House Bill 32, 63, and 64.
Thank you very much. Further announcements? Further announcements? Seeing none, the House is in recess until 2 p.m.